Alright, how's it going, YouTube? Back with another active matter video. This one is going to be talking about how to maximize the amount of credits that you can potentially make in your raids. It's actually active matter, but if you look up here, it's called credits. So just to make it easy, I'm going to call it credits going forward. But if you look at the refiner, when you put a weapon or whatever in there, it'll tell you income from active matter, and it gives you a range. That's the credits that you're getting from it, and then obviously it also shows the Chronotraces if it's an enriched item as well. So the short answer on this one is if you're trying to maximize the most that you can potentially get out of a raid, obviously it's going to depend a lot on the amount of things that you can bring out, right? So if you're trying to go into a raid and really maximize your profit, I would say you want to be using at least a medium backpack, and we'll say rookie pouches if you're doing a little bit more of a budget. If you can afford it, the large backpack gives you an additional 900 volume, so obviously that one would be one of the better ones to take in. I haven't even unlocked everything yet, so I don't know. There may be an even larger backpack than the large backpack. Same thing with the there's the army pouches that would give you another plus 50 on top of the 150 that the rookie pouches are giving you. Plus it would unlock all of your suit pockets down the bottom, so technically you could drop more things in here, like healing items, grenades, stuff like that that you find. So first thing is, you want to make a decision, how many things do you want to be able to take out with you? Once you've decided on your backpack, your pouches, all that stuff, what you want to be doing in raid is looking for items that are giving you the highest value per, not really slot, but per volume, right? So, for instance, you can find, say, we'll take the Pins albums, for example. So that volume is 50, but I have two of them, so it's showing 100, but that weighs, or the volume that it takes up is 50. Same thing with the electronics that you find, the bigger one, that's a volume of 50. The vases, they all, I think, weigh 50, or volume is 50, because you do have weight and you have volume. So weight affects your move speed. Volume is just the space that it's taking up in your backpack or your vest. So, from what I've noticed so far is that most of the things that you're going to be trying to extract with that have the greatest value for you, generally they have a volume of 50 from what I've seen so far. Like I said, I haven't, extracted with every single item. I extracted with a bunch of random goods and like household items and electronics and stuff like that. And all of those come out to be about 30 credits that you make off of the just all the junk that kind of gets, when you're looting it into your backpack, it'll actually compile it into either household goods or like old medicine, electronic parts. So those usually don't weigh a whole lot, but you'd have to extract with a lot of them to really make any money. So usually you're only doing that if you have that task where it's like, hey, you have to loot 15 or 10 of these items to complete that task. So that's when I would be doing that. But most of the time you're looking for the items that are going to give you around like 1,000 or more credits per item that you are when you're extracting with them. So what I did is I'm creating two different charts. I'm creating one for just regular like lootable items, and then one for equipment such as your weapons, your helmets, backpacks, your pouches, and then your plates. Now, the plates, especially if they're one of the you know, very first ones that you can get, they don't really give you much of anything. If you refine it, it gives you 180. Even the better plates, what I've noticed is that your armor, like the actual like torso, right hand, left hand, all of those like ceramic and steel plates, for the most part, they don't really give you the better value for extracting with them. You're actually, from what my experience has been so far, better off extracting with weapons, backpacks, pouches, things of that nature, unless they're enriched, because then you should be able to get Chronotraces off of them, but the weight is also the other downside too. So normally the body armors, the plates, weigh a lot more, so you're not able to pull as much out because that's taking up a lot of your storage space. So if you start going through and looking at some of the weapon accessories, if we go over to the refiner, but this one isn't enriched because I took it into a raid or whatever that looks like, so it only refines for 165, and that's a common silencer. The Moose Mark, it's uncommon, but it's not enriched, so you're only getting 279 for it, and anything that is not enriched, you do not get any kind of Chronotraces. Magazines, you will get a little bit off the magazines if they're enriched for the Chronotraces. So this video I'm pretty much focusing on the credits value, but I'm also going to kind of cover the Chronotraces as well. So on these two charts that I've created, so I'll zoom in on this so you can see it better in the video, but this one is the equipment one that I've started working on, and then I have one for the lootable items. So, like I said, I have the industrial scraps, small house, old items, electronic components, old drugs. They all only give you 30 credits for each one of those that you refine. So normally, you're not really too concerned about those. So the other thing with active matter is that the vast majority of stuff that you'll find in these containers and that, for the most part, are going to be junk. Some of them, like the fuse, even though it only gives you 30 credits, you do use those for crafting. So that could be something else that you'd be looking for to kind of stock up on if you want to do crafting. But if it's just pure credits, then you don't need to worry about the fuses. The ACHs, the one with the airplane and one with on the stand, those would refine for 1,000 credits each. Any of the VHS cassettes that you find are 200 credits. The vinyl discs are 200. The cassette tapes, the cassette tape players are 1,000, so those are good. But the any of like the music related stuff, they're usually refining for anywhere around like 200, or if it's just a cassette tape, it's 100. So unless you're just trying to collect the music tracks for your shelter, or if they're needed for a crafting recipe, normally you can kind of just forget about them. We already talked about the Pins album, so the yellow, green, you know, red, however many colors there are, they usually refine for 1,000 a piece. The electronics, the one that's the bigger one that looks kind of like a radio or whatever, that one is 1,000. So it'll actually just say electronics, and it's a volume of 50, that one is the one that you want to go with. Then you also have the Electronica MK59. That one refines for 1,000, but it's also used for crafting, I think it's healing items, once you unlock that in the monolith. The toy cars, APCs, they each go for 200, and then the Christmas decorations, even though I don't have the value in here yet, I believe they sell for, I think it's 100. I could be wrong. I don't remember off the top of my head, but basically what you're looking for are those ACHSs if you find them. The electronics, the one that actually just says electronics and it has the 50 volume. The vases are 1,000. The cassette tape players are 1,000. The Pins albums are 1,000, and Electronica MK59 is also 1,000. So those are good ones to pick up. Like I was saying, depending on if you're trying to do crafting or not, you would need the CD Sharp Thin Blade and the Yellow Pins album to make an AKM. AK-103 is the VHS cassette Clockwork Tomato, the red cassette tape player, and a cooking cleaver. And then the fuse is used with the cassette blackmail to make keys, so that's good. Bags is what it is. It's actually the MK59 and the Komsomolets. I'm probably saying that wrong. That's more like the newspapers, but that's so far the only one that I've seen, the one that's the 1977 that you use to actually craft with, so the rest you can probably get rid of. Again, fuse with the Sputnik white toy car. That one is used to craft the medicine. Mosin sniper rifle is the memo about fuel, and the vase with flowers. So you could throw those into your looting if you were trying to save up for some crafting, but if, like I said, if you're just going for straight credits, then I wouldn't worry so much about those. The other side of it too is there's different rarities. So you have common, uncommon, which are the green marker ones. So it has a little triangle in the corner that says it's green, and then it says uncommon. You have rare, which is blue, so you'll have that blue marker. And then you have the epic, which is purple. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because in this chart that I was showing you, any of these ones that are 1,000, if you find the epic version of those, they're 4,000. So it greatly increases the amount of credits you're going to get off of those items if you're able to extract with them and refine them. I haven't come across rare versions of these off the top of my head that I can think of. I've only seen either common, uncommon, or epic. So there might be rare versions, but I just haven't came across them yet. So if that's the case, it would probably put them somewhere between 1,000 and the 4,000 mark, so maybe 2,000 or 3,000. But I haven't seen them. I've seen, like I said, common, uncommon, and epic. So if you see the purple, automatic, grab it, because that's going to get you more money. Now, again, I haven't listed every single lootable item because I haven't gone through and put that much time into it, so I'm still compiling this list. But I know from playing Shigolsko, Ozerno, let's see, what's the other one? Headquarters, and even the escape from the Gorsk. Most of the items that I've found so far are within the or they're part of this chart that I've been creating. So I know I'm missing items, but this is at least a good basis to get you started to go off of. Because I know when I first started playing Active Matter, I was like, there's so much stuff that you can pick up, and what's going to get me the best value, so I'm not just grabbing all this stuff, filling up my backpack and my vest with like useless stuff, and I don't find out until after the raid that most of the stuff that I picked up is just trash for the most part. So with that being said, we're going to switch over and talk about some of the equipment items, so like your weapons, your backpacks, your vests, things of that nature, melee weapons, magazines. So there's two things that you want to be looking for when it comes to equipment. Number one, it's going to be a huge bonus if it's enriched, because if it's enriched, that means that you're going to get generally a higher credit value off of it when you refine it, and it's also going to give you Chronotraces, which you can use. If we snap back over here to the replicator, Chronotraces, these guys right here, are what you use to help speed along the research of the blueprints that you've unlocked. So obviously the blueprints that you unlock as you use those items and stuff, you'll get, you know, points towards it, so it will unlock naturally that way. But if you're breaking down equipment that's enriched that gives you Chronotraces, you can take these Chronotraces, and let's say I wanted to unlock this, I could spend my Chronotraces, like so, and I would finish unlocking that ceramic plate, and I'd be able to start crafting them. Which, this is a really great system because it costs you nothing to craft these. The only thing that you're spending is the time that it takes to craft the item. So, when you're breaking down, say, a weapon like this RPK that's enriched, right? It'll give you a range of credits. Like I said, it shows active matter, but that's actually your credits. So it'll give you a range. So you could get anywhere between 1,050 to 1,750. But what it doesn't show here is when you pop it into here, it tells you you also get 130 Chronotraces from breaking down that RPK. Now, this isn't an RPK, it's an AK-12, but it's not enriched, and it's a replica. So, if you notice, only 2 credits for refining that, which means if you're trying to make money off of just replicating things and breaking them down, they already thought of that, can't do it. So that's not a good way to make money. This is not a replica, but it is just a common M4A1 assault rifle. It's not enriched. So if I was to refine this, I would actually be getting from the weapon 976 credits, and then another 30 from the magazine. That's why it's showing 1,006. So if you ever have attachments on the weapon, what it means when it shows income from refine, that's from the weapon itself, and then the income from, oh, I'll take that back. Income from refine, the top number is from the weapon. Income from refine below that is for the attachments. So larger number is usually the weapon, smaller numbers are the attachments. Now, like I said, enriched items will give you more value, both from the credits and from the Chronotraces that you're going to get, but if you start getting into some of the higher tier weapons, like if we go to the Ash 12, right? So this is just, it's a rare, but it's not enriched because this was from the Twitch drops. So if I put that in there, the weapon itself is 3,171, and then the attachments on it also give me an extra 721. But just because it's not enriched doesn't necessarily mean it's worthless, but let's say you don't care about using the Ash 12 and you just want to refine it, it's going to give you 3,000, almost 4,000 credits off of that. Same thing, like this is an AK tactical stock. 765 credits. Not enriched, So is it completely worthless? No, you're just not going to get as much money from it. Same thing if you go into the magazines. Magazines, that's just a flat 30. The AS Val, flat 30. Same thing with the, oh, that one's enriched. Now, this one is 60 in comparison to this one, but it has ammo in it, so that's probably why. It's not showing two different values, but magazines loaded, not loaded. So for the most part, from what I can tell, a lot of the magazines give you roughly 30 to maybe like 100 and something credits. The enriched ones obviously do give you a higher value, but it's not that much higher. Like even that RPK magazine is like 120 to 200, and a non-enriched one is 90. So selling or refining the magazines probably won't give you a whole lot, but the weapons that are enriched will give you a good chunk, even if they're not the higher tier weapons. As you go into the helmets, backpacks, pouches, so this is a USSR hiking backpack. That one is not enriched, so it gives you 30. So it basically gives you next to nothing. This one is enriched, so not only does it give you 390 up to 750, it also gives you 48 Chronotraces. So that's a big jump from 30 up to 390 to 750. Same thing if you look at the your safe containers, obviously it won't give you anything. The helmets. Now I don't have an enriched helmet here. These are just common, non-enriched, but the A3 helmet, if it was fully repaired, it would probably be a little bit more. That would give you, but the KVR helmet is 165. This one's probably like 270 if it's fully repaired. So something that you want to keep in mind is that if you loot something on a player, like a weapon, and it says replica item, or if it's not enriched, then unless you just really want to use that weapon, but if I would say, you know, use it then, but if you're doing it just for the credit value or trying to get Chronotraces, if it's not enriched or if it's a replica, leave it alone, because it's not really going to give you much. The other thing is with like healing items or grenades and things like that. So for the most part, grenades, even when they're enriched, they don't give you a whole lot of active matter credits. So they really just want you to use them, not really like break them down for money. Same thing with like the healing items, like those are replicas, but even if it's not, like this AI2, I don't even know if it's going to give me anything, to be honest. It's not even listing anything. Yeah, even this so the enriched one will give me 90 to 150 and 2 Chronotraces. So you're not going to make a ton off of like the healing items or like consumable items and things like that. So that's another side of it. If you are trying to get the maximum value, unless you need to use those items or you just want to take them for whatever reason, they're not going to give you a whole lot. Same thing with backpacks and helmets. You want to see the enriched tag. Those are going to give you more value, both Chronotraces and credits. Now, again, depending on what you're trying to accumulate, if you're just going for straight profit on the credits, or if you're going for credits and Chronotraces, you're only going to get the Chronotraces from the equipment side. So that's something else you have to think of too, you know, whether or not when you go into the raid, are you going to try to focus on just pulling as many credits out? If that's the case, you probably don't want to loot too much equipment because the volume is usually higher, which means you're not going to be able to carry out as much. If you're trying to get those credits, you're going to be wanting to go for the things like, you know, the albums and all that stuff, because even if you found an Ash 12, the volume on this is 300. Now that might be also because it has attachments on it, but let's take one that doesn't. So let's say this AK-12, so that volume's 260, just the volume by itself. I don't think the attachments are going to take up volume because they're on the weapon itself, so it's all probably combining into that. But either way, so let's say it's, you know, an AK-12, it's 260, naked, no attachments. That's going to get you, we'll use the RPK actually since this one's enriched. So that volume is 350, and you can get anywhere between, let's say you get the max amount, it's 1750, right? That's 350 on the volume. So you can loot, we're looking at the albums, volumes 50, you can loot, what, 7 of those for the same volume that the RPK takes up, so you're getting a guaranteed 7,000 off of looting 7 of those, as opposed to looting, you know, 1 RPK that might get you 1750. So actually the better way to make your maximum value on the credits is by taking the lootable items, like non-equipment items, like your albums, those electronic parts, or excuse me, the electronics, or the vases, things of that nature. If you're looking to get credits and Chronotraces because you're trying to, you know, unlock a specific blueprint faster, or whatever that may be, then you're going to want to get the enriched weapons, backpacks, and not go so much on the just regular items. I believe, like, that's 130 Chronotraces for the RPK. The enriched backpack gives you 48, so I'm gonna say that you probably get more Chronotraces from weapons, and then you probably get more Chronotraces from helmets as opposed to what you get from the backpacks, depending on, you know, the rarity and, you know, how high up in the tier the weapon is. So, just to reiterate a couple things real quick at the end here, if you're trying to make money, you're going for things like the colored albums, the cassette players, electronics, the one that says electronics, the vases, there's a few more that'll give you, you know, those 1,000+ credits depending on the rarity, but that's what you're looking for. If you want credits and Chronotraces, you're going for things like enriched weapons, enriched backpacks, enriched helmets. I would probably stay away from the armor plates unless you really need them for some reason, because they're just going to take up a lot of volume and you're not going to get a whole lot off of them from what I've seen so far. Now, obviously, the game is in early access, so all of these values are subject to change. You know, they may move everything around completely, and this might become irrelevant. But for now, maximizing credits is coming from those items like the albums and that, and then if you find an epic or something like that, it's going to really increase it. Chronotraces coming from equipment items like your weapons, armors, backpacks, pouches, all that stuff. So, with that being said, I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm going to try to put out a couple more videos like this with some tips and tricks and things like that, but if you thought that this video was useful and the information was useful, just let me know down in the comments, and be sure to give the video a like, and subscribing is free, so that also helps out the channel a lot. So like and subscribe if you do like the content, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.